Story continued from CryptoGip's episode. The peaceful silence of the afternoon is broken as harsh screeches echo through the open forest. The local vultures have been waiting for a chance to tear into a large carcass, and as soon as the corpse is vacant of larger predators, the feast begins. A mass of feathered bodies blankets the dead Diprotodont, the birds tearing and pulling out the remains with vigor. These cryptogyps act as the ecosystem's cleanup crew, along with the free Sarcophilus that pull at the extremities, fighting both the vultures and each other for the smallest pieces of offal. In the shade, a female Thylacoleo is resting. She might try and get another feed in soon, but the sheer amount of scavengers piling on the carcass may not leave anything worthwhile. Another bird flies overhead, but this is not one of the cryptogyps. Even she can see it is far larger. Gliding effortlessly over the forest, moving through the air with a seamless grace, comes not a vulture, but an eagle. However, this is not just any eagle. It is the largest in all of Australia. Its 3-meter wingspan forces it to approach the feeding frenzy from a distance, being too large to navigate the trees and branches. As it lands, its powerful legs pound into the earth, each of its 4 toes armed with massive hooked claws, designed to pierce and hold onto live, struggling prey. The giant folds in its wings. Its long neck extends, revealing a crown of feathers lining the back of the head. This is a male. His stylish headpiece a lure to females that sport a smaller crown but are even larger than the males. Descending from the sky is a Dynatoaetus, the largest avian predator on the continent. Standing up to his full height, the male observes the squawking, squabbling scavengers and marches straight at them. The first cryptogyps in his path, those still waiting to feed, see his approach and without hesitation begin to part before him. The Dynatoaetus isn't that much taller than them, but he is far more heavily built, and they know the pecking order when it comes to who and what gets access to a carcass. The vultures steadily disperse to either side of the huge eagle, creating an unobstructed path for the newcomer. A massive rabble parting before a king. The feeding cryptogyps start to see the approaching bird of prey. Those closest to him slink away, while those further up tear at the carcass with renewed haste, trying to get a mouthful of flesh before being evicted. The Dynatoaetus jumps onto the corpse's back, spreading his wings out to their full length and letting out a whistle-like cry. The rest of the vultures scurry away in fright. Even the Sarcophilus retreat, intimidated by the size and frightening noise of the huge bird. With one final look around the area to make sure there were no threats to his conquest, the Dynatoaetus dug in, his hooked beak easily slicing meat clean from the bone. His species may have superiority over the vultures, but Dynatoaetus aren't obligate scavengers like the cryptogyps. They primarily hunt their own prey, being able to take down even medium-sized marsupials. If they were alive today, they'd be hunting kangaroos. Though at this time, their selection of prey is far more expansive. As large as they may be, it is common for them to descend on small prey, ones they can secure and kill easily, then be able to carry away on the wing. And of course, they won't pass up carrion if it's available. This male is lucky he got here when he did. A few more minutes, there would have been a lot less desirable flesh for him to pick over. The cryptogyps have once again been forced to wait their turn, but this time some are feeling a bit more bold. A few creep towards the carcass's extremities, trying to nab a bite when the Dynatoaetus had his head half buried in the Diprotodont's insides. One grabs a bit of flesh and pulls his head back, trying to dislodge the morsel, but it refuses to come loose. He pulls several more times, and in a flash a huge feathered body descends from the carcass's back. The Dynatoaetus seizes the vulture's head in his left foot, driving the victim's face into the blood-soaked grass, talons piercing his flesh. The Dynatoaetus lowers his head and hisses loudly. The core Cryptogyps shrieks in surprise, trying to unfold and flap his wings. The others back up even further, clucking and hooting nervously. Fortunately, the Dynatoaetus hasn't pierced his target's neck too deep, though a small trickle of blood wets each of his talons. He did not intend to waste energy killing the scavenger. This was a lesson, a re-establishment of the pecking order, one the Cryptogyps wouldn't soon forget, and the individual in his grip would likely never forget. The eagle lifted his foot and tossed the intruding vulture away. The terrified bird ran to his flock, head tucked in, leaving a trail of feathers in his wake. With that settled, the male jumped back on top of the carcass and continued eating. There were no more interruptions from any of the scavengers. Able to eat in peace, the Dynatoaetus ate his fill, and then promptly stretched out his wings, leapt from his perch on the body's ribs, and with a few flaps, was flying just off the ground. When there was a gap in the trees big enough for him to pass through, he flew upwards and was once again soaring high in the sky, returning home. No sooner had he left, all patience and restraint was thrown aside, and the carcass was once again swarmed by furry and feathery bodies. This time the crowd would have their fill, leaving only scraps and bones. The female Thylacoleo rose to her feet and moved away, knowing there was no point waiting any longer. Above, the Wakaleo watched the scene play out. Yawning, he lay flat on a branch and tried to get some sleep, despite the racket resonating from the slowly disappearing carcass. Far away, the Dynatoaetus found the tree that was his and his mate's domain. Resting on the top was a large nest containing his single offspring. Upon landing, the white down-covered chick demanded food. The father regurgitated some flesh into the hungry infant's mouth, satisfying it into silence. He and his mate will care for their single chick for about 6 months. After that, the little female will be on her own. Another massive aerial predator to rule the skies. Hello fellow travellers and welcome back. Today we will be breaking down the largest known bird of prey to ever live in Australia, Dynatoaetus. The first remains of Dynatoaetus were discovered in 1956 at the Mars Cave in South Australia. These remains were fragmentary, with only the toes, upper arm and sternum found. With such limited bones, they remained unidentified. Over the years, other remains were found in locations across South Australia, Victoria and New South Wales. But it wasn't until scientists returned to Mars Cave decades later with the express purpose of finding more remains of this particular bird that they found some more complete bones. These became the holotype and helped identify the other bones and fragments across the country, giving it an official name in 2023, that being Dynatoaetus gaffi, the genus name being a combination of the Greek words for powerful and eagle. But there was another surprise here, as in the same year a second species of Dynatoaetus was named, Dynatoaetus, a smaller species whose remains have only been found in the Victoria Fossil Cave, also from South Australia. Dynatoaetus was in the Apipictidae family, and lived in Australia from the Pliocene to the Pleistocene, approximately 5.3 million to 50,000 years ago. In life, D. gaffi, the largest species, may have had a wingspan up to 3 meters from wingtip to wingtip, and weighed around 12 kilograms. While D. pachyostis is estimated to have had a wingspan around 2 meters and weighed around 4 kilograms, so quite close to the modern wedge-tailed eagle. For the larger of the two, this puts it in running for the largest eagle of all time, only beaten out for certain by the Huss eagle of New Zealand. A closer look at the bones, especially the feet and legs, show that this genus was built for power. Almost all elements of the hind limbs were large and robust, including the femur, metatarsals, and phalanges. These were backed up by a deep pelvis that had strong muscle attachment points, all features it shares with modern eagles. The only major differences were the size of the toes, which were short for its size. Attached to these toes were long talons said to get up to 30 centimeters in length. Even the skull was notably robust, and likely had a signature hook on the end of the beak, well suited for both attacking live prey and pulling meat from carcasses. This was a bird adapted to swoop onto animals from above, latch on, and secure them with its well-built feet and talons. Its powerful legs could have meant it went after quite large prey for a bird, hunting kangaroos, wombats, ground birds, even large fish if it took after ospreys at all. The wings of Dynatoaetus weren't wide and expansive like vultures or albatrosses, but rather short and robust, so it may have been doing more flapping when taking off, soaring, and diving on prey. This does fit with it being a more active predator. Having shorter wings would have made moving on the wing easier for such a large animal, better at making tight turns, coordinate attacks, and maneuver through tight spaces like forests. Now one may think that Dynatoaetus may have been too large to live in densely forested areas, but some of the largest eagles today live in rainforests, like the harpy eagle in the Amazon and the Philippine eagle in, the Philippines. Both of these species being so agile in the treetops that they can even hunt monkeys while flying. Just because it was enormous doesn't mean it went only after large prey, as bigger prey most of the time would be able to more effectively fight back, especially if they saw the giant bird coming. With that in mind, the previously mentioned Huss eagle hunted moa while it was alive, so it's definitely not out of the ballpark that Dynatoaetus, especially D. gaffei, could have been the large prey specialists of all Australia's birds of prey. While the remains so far found are restricted to the southern and eastern states of Australia, that doesn't mean it didn't have a far wider range, as bird bones don't fossilize easy, and in the case of most Dynatoaetus remains, they aren't even fossils, but bones that have, fortunately, lasted a long amount of time without eroding. Much like wedge-tailed eagles in Australia, or golden eagles in a large amount of the northern hemisphere, the two Dynatoaetus species could have fitted well into most environments, adapting to different climates and pressures as long as there was sufficient enough prey for them to sustain themselves. And during that time there would have been plenty. Multiple kangaroo species, as well as the short-faced varieties. Varying sizes of diprotodonts, massive wombat relatives, Genyornis and other dronornithids, and even a large koala species. If these were too big for Dynatoaetus, they could have still targeted their young, and this includes the young of other predators, like the various Thylacoleo species, thylacines, Megalania, and other monitors, plus various aquatic and terrestrial crocodilians. It was this reliance on a supply of large prey, plus other contributing factors, that led to Dynatoaetus' eventual extinction. As the continent dried and environments changed even before the first humans ever set foot in Australia, megafauna species were going extinct quite rapidly, culminating in almost all megafauna disappearing around 50,000 years ago. Like I said, there were many different factors that played into this, and I probably should do a video just on this subject, but in relation to Dynatoaetus, its large size was a hindrance, needing more resources than smaller species, and possibly being too specialized to make it through to the modern day. We see it over and over again. Once the prey animals disappear, the predators soon follow. They could have likely scavenged for a while like their close relatives, cryptogyps, but these bodies would have quickly dried up, leaving smaller, harder to catch animals that other birds of prey were better suited to hunt, meaning they made it through while the giants of Australia's skies disappeared. On a final note, where does Dynatoaetus fit on the bird family tree? Well, its closest relative is the species I covered in the last episode, the vulture-like Cryptogyps, with both it and the two species of Dynatoaetus sitting just outside of Old World vultures and close to serpent eagles. Both of them have more basal traits for their family, and one is clearly more vulture-like while the other more eagle-like. The question is, was their ancestor closer informed to the active hunting serpent eagles and then split into the hunting Dynatoaetus and the scavenging Cryptogyps, or was it closer informed to Old World vultures and retained this form in Cryptogyps while some redeveloped into the powerful Dynatoaetus? That's a very simple evolutionary hypothetical, but let's just have that be the question of the week, shall we? What do you think of Dynatoaetus? What lesser known extinct bird would you like me to do a breakdown on next? And until then, please like, share, subscribe, and thank you for watching.